my name is Logan Watts, and today I'll be walking through my final game project. So if we just press start in the main menu here, the game will start. The first thing the player will notice is this to-do list here, which gives, well, not being too direct, essentially tells them how to beat the game, and a little warning at the bottom, which we may see very soon. So intentionally I left a very easy first object here to grab, right next to where you're supposed to put it, here, to kind of give the player an idea of what their main goal is. And so yeah, if I just stop playing the game, I'll take this TV box, which I'll take to the TV aisle, and we'll see if anything interesting happens, shall we? So as you can see, the main goal of the game is to take all this, well, loose product and put it in the correct aisle where it belongs. The note does say you have to do 20 of these, and there is 5 of each in the level, all strewn across the map. Here we go, our first encounter. Thankfully, it's not too aggressive this early, unless you get caught in an aisle like this, and yeah, I think that's it for me. So, that's the game over. If you, get caught, it will take you back to the main menu. Okay, so a little behind the scenes look of how the game actually works. So firstly, the monster. Quite a lot going off here. Firstly, the pawn sensing. Quite simple, a thing built into Unreal. So if it sees the player within this green cone, it casts the player blueprint to make sure it is seeing the player and not somewhere else, so it doesn't get lost. And now we get around to the blueprint in a second. Got 2 different audios. This audio is the looping audio that the breathing makes for the monster. The monster makes while breathing. Audio 1 is the death noise if the monster catches the player. Box 1 is the collision in front of the monster, where if the player collides with it, it will play the death animation. The camera is the camera angle the player's camera moves to, so it looks like they're being picked up by the monster. This bigger box is how the core mechanic functions. If this bigger box around the monster that you see here overlaps with any of these shells or these TVs, anything like this, it will change their material to the more muddied, bloodied version of them, which is how the player knows if the monster's close. The rest is self-explanatory. The mesh is the mesh. If we get into the blueprint, you'll see how the monster functions. So let's start with this part here. So as you see, as I mentioned, the pawn sensing will cast the first-person character, which then through the sequence it will check if it can see the player. If that's true, it will move to the player. It will also, every 2 seconds, this retriggable delay will happen to see if it can't see the player. So those are the 2 outcomes. And if it can't see the player, it sets it to can't, which then plays into this down here, which on event tick, through this branch, if it's true that it can't see the player, it does this instead, which is essentially through a delay of anywhere from 2 to 5 seconds, it will get its own location, it will pick a spot within a radius of 12,000 within the nav mesh that it can move to, and it will move to it. And then a little bit I added on the end here is sort of like a time gate mechanic to make the player kind of move a bit faster. Every time this successfully executes, I add a 5 to the monster's speed. So the more time it spends patrolling, not find the player, the faster it will get. So eventually it will catch up to the player, kind of putting a time limit of how long you can actually spend before the game becomes unbeatable. Down here, the box 1, which was the tiny box in front of the monster. As you can see, it casts the first person character to make sure that's what it collided with. This here changes the player character to the camera that's floating above the monster, which creates that little animation where it looks like you being picked up. Play audio 1, which is the death animation, destroys the first audio to make sure it doesn't overlap with the breathing. And then here is just making it so the game ignores any input from the player, so you can't keep moving after you've died. And then a little trick I did to make it seem like you're being dropped into the gap of the monster is simply just on a delay to just reduce the FOV, and another delay, and then just reduce the FOV again, and then we add the death widget to the viewport, which is the game over screen, and then after a 5-second delay it just boots you back to the main menu. And I believe that's everything to cover for the monster. So I'll just show one of these because all these shells are the same. It's pretty simple. It's just if um, if the this actor overlaps with the box from the AI, simply just change the material to the bloody version, and then vice versa. Once this overlap ends, it just returns to the normal material. So next we'll get to is the player character. Oh, hang on. Let me just find them. There we go. So this is the standard stuff that comes with the first person example. I did one of the things I worked on did kind of extend on one of them. I'll get around to that. So firstly, the grab mechanic, quite straightforward really. Left mouse button calls to the if it's true of the is grabbing object. Oh right, yeah, sorry, wrong one. Yeah, the release actually, yeah. So this is essentially if you release the left mouse button and it is true that you're grabbing an object, then release the component and set is grabbing object to false. This line here is the true, where if you're pressing it, and from the first person camera we get the world location, the world rotation, and it goes to the forward vector. And for a line trace by channel, yep, and for the branch if it's true, and we hit the component, we grab the component at location rotation, and then it says the is grabbing object to true, which I believe is down here. Yes. So on an event tick, if it is true that we are grabbing an object, then it says the target location based on the first person camera's world rotation and world location, which is how the player holds objects in front of them, depending on where their camera is looking. And then if we look up here, this is how the sound for the walking works. Essentially it takes the movement input, and if it's if it's true that we're moving and we're at least moving X or Y by 2 or more, do once, it'll go through this, where through this custom event it will play a sound at location, which this should be just around the first person camera where the actual camera is, so you actually hear it. And I believe that's everything for that's everything for the first person character. Oh right, yeah, the world blueprint should be the last thing to show. Quite simple. This isn't too important. I was having problems with the nav mesh, so I just did this, and it fixed it. So this is essentially how the shells work. Each shelf has a trigger volume, and these are all the same, so I can just show one. It simply casts the relevant thing, and if it's colliding with it, it'll destroy it. And then we set the the integer of work by taking what it is already, and then just adding +1, and then playing the woo victory sound, which I'm quite happy with. And then I believe, yeah, it's down here. And then on an event tick, if work hits 20, then once we create the victory widget, add it to the viewport, we play the victory sound, we destroy the monster to make sure that it doesn't cause any problems, and then after a 3-second delay, you'll just return to the main menu. It's quite simple.